always makes us feel so welcome. And without further ado, I'd like to invite Jennifer Shaw, who is head of everything special in our city, who is la chemise ouvrière and who makes it possible for us to be here, along with the beautiful Corinne, who is at the backstage there and watching us and making sure we're behaving. Thank you, Jennifer, for this partnership.
I've just been promoted live for report to my CEO. Merci, Adela. So good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to One Exchange Square. So, as Adela said, I'm Jennifer, Marketing and Communications Manager for Mac City Group, and on behalf of the company and our CEOs, it's a real pleasure to have you all this morning with us. So we're thrilled to host HR Café here again. So it's becoming a yearly rendezvous. And while the coffee is great, so thanks Nespresso, the real magic is in the conversations, open, challenging, and inspiring us to think differently about how we work and lead. So for those who may not know us, Mac City is a proudly Mauritian family business founded 40 years ago by Maxime Fonsin. Since then, we've grown into a trusted name in real estate, delivering landmark projects like Grand Villa Croisette and One Exchange Square, where we are all here today. And if you've noticed, il y a un grand chantier at the entrance. So it's 2 Exchange Square, 10,000 square meters of new premium offices coming in Q3 of 2026. We've also welcomed the Business Exchange into our portfolio this year, bringing co-working and shared office solutions to Mauritius. This reflects what drives us at Mac City, anticipating how work is evolving and creating places where businesses and people thrive. Last but not least, our smart city Montebello reached another milestone, so the opening of Montebello Mall planned for November of this year. And that's really at the heart of our philosophy. We create better life experiences through better places. Today, this room itself becomes one of those places for ideas, for dialogue, and maybe even a few healthy disagreements, Adila? After all, CEOs, HR, that's what's on the table today. We are especially proud that one of our own, so today we will have our colleague, Lovna Ramrati, who is part of the panel. She co-leads our HR, legal, health and safety functions and brings not only deep expertise but also passion, warmth, and let's be honest, a lot of courage to be here today. She just shared earlier, it's her first time speaking in front of such a big panel, so I'm sure you're all going to be very nice to her. So before we get started, I'd just like to say a quick note of thank you to 3 important groups. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to HR Café Talent Lab, especially Adela, for trusting us with this collaboration and bringing energy and inspiration to our Saturday morning. To our Mac City team, who work tirelessly behind the scenes to make sure everything runs smoothly. There's so much of you around here today, so I won't be able to name all of you, but thank you to the team. And of course, Nespresso, for fueling us, because no CEO versus HR debate should ever happen on an empty stomach or without caffeine, right, Adela? So, let's make the most of this morning. Listen, connect, laugh a little, and most importantly, everyone challenge. So, take away ideas that can reshape the work we live today. With that, let's officially kick off the 13th edition of HR Café. Adela, the floor is yours. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Really set the stage right now, set the tone and set the standard. I hope we're going to be up to the level. Before we start, I'd just like to invite our George Cluny Local, our director of Nespresso, to please say a few words. Why it's important, ladies and gentlemen, is because HR Café wouldn't be a cafe without Nespresso. We've been in partnership since 2022. Over at least out of 13 editions, I think 12 of them have been with you. The story began when we did our launch, and it suddenly appeared on NBC TV, and the lady in black at the back there, Cindy, caught it on TV, and the next day she phoned me. She pushed her way in and said, you know what, we're partnering with you and you need to meet my director. And here it is, 13 editions later, 3 years later, we're still working together. Such a beautiful and wonderful way. So, a few words to you, please. Do us the honors.
Thank you, Adira. Good morning, everybody. So, I'm sure that it's going to be a fantastic day, also today. We will see at the end, but as I always told you, this edition is always the best one,
yes.
So we'll see, I'm sure. And today is also very special because we have our CEO together with us. So we are delighted to be partnered with HR Café now since 3 years, 12 out of 13, I think. So it's fantastic, and I'm sure that it is a win-win partnership because we support the HR Café and you guys with our recipes, and for us it's good visibility, so it is a great opportunity for you to interact with us, with our team. It's a great opportunity for you to know about the values of Nespresso and our engagement in terms of sustainability. So I invite you also later on to spend a little bit more time talking with our team. And so I wish a great deliberation today. And thanks again, Adila, for the invite.
Thank you so much, and thank you for Team Scott and Team Nespresso to be en force this Saturday morning. Special clin d'œil à Javed Jitu, your head of HR. He's finally made it to HR Café. Thank you, Javed. Yes. Okay, so let's get to serious business now. The theme of the day is, who remembers? Coldplay. Coldplay versus Cold War. Bridging the tension between the CEO, and I like to add the board, and HR leaders. This theme actually comes from, it has been inspired from our last edition. For those of you who were here, there was very impactful debate happening around the EVP, setting the EVP and the role of the board, the role of CEOs. And we did a bit of ranting, to be honest, that us HR people, I know there's some CEOs and directors here, c'est fait par exprès. As HR people, at times we have difficulty in pushing our way and letting the board and the CEO understand that investing in people is not just about costs. It's not just about us being the cost center. It is the people who drives the organization. We're not yet into robots invading the world, unfortunately. And until we're there, we're pushing through. Even when the day when they do, you still need human beings to push the button, don't you? So there was a lot of debate there, and then at the same time, the Coldplay concert happened, and we said, okay, why not? There you go, there's a CEO and an HR who obviously done something right, and they're even cuddling, isn't it? So that's why the play of words on the theme, and very privileged today to have an A-star panel, a rock star panel, even if I can call it, for their experience, for their expertise. I think amongst them, we have more than 150 years experience, cumulative, among the 4 panelists, really. So without delaying further, I'd like to call the big boss of Scott, who has made us the honors to spend his Saturday morning with us, Matthew Taylor. Big round of applause. As you know, is the CEO of Scott for the past how many years now? 21 years. An advocate of business strategy, business growth, but also with people at the very center of it. Matthew has been championing transformation on all spheres at Scott. I think all of you who are fans of the products and services from Scott would know the huge range, the digitalization that's gone through. Well, here's the man behind. And here's the man behind our partnership with Nespresso as well. It wouldn't have happened without your blessings. So, thank you very much. Now, a fun fact about Matthew. Where does he get all this inspiration from, according to you? Any guess? I mean, your team isn't allowed to answer, of course, if they know, that is, but we managed to follow him a few days and saw him at Poste Lafayette. on a windy day doing kite surfing. And he says that's where he gets all the inspiration to strategize on his business. My husband does it when he's on his bike, and you obviously do it when you're up there where there's nobody there to disturb, isn't it? Yes, so thank you and welcome. And next in line is La Chemise Ouvrière in terms of HR for Max City. Please put your hands together for Lavna Ramrati, co-team leader HR. Lavna, you're in charge of HR, legal, and health and safety. That's not a small game. That's not a small responsibility. A little word for you, ladies. Thank you, ladies, for accepting for Lavna to be here on the panel. She's got a lot of insights, and we just can't wait to hear from you. Fun fact about Lavna: when she's stressed, when she's overwhelmed by whatever's happening at work, ladies, she goes to her Canva and she starts painting. And she believes that the world is just like a Canva, made up to the kaleidoscope of colors. Thank you. We can't wait to check your Canvas and whether there's the photo of Lewis on it. Yes, welcome, Lavna. Please have a seat. We're trying to do a bit of gender balance, so if maybe Matthew, you could be here and Lavna there. Next in line is somebody who is a well-known figure in the HR world right now. He is the Chief People Officer of ER. Any guess? Manish. Come on, Manish, don't be shy. We know you're not. But put your hands together. Chief People Officer at ER, the newly formed merger behind Rogers and E&L Group. You've got a lot on your plate, actually, but still have made time to be with us and share your insights. Manish is on the board and is quite a voice on the board of the group, so we would be very interested in knowing how you do it. And thank you for also bringing the data and analytics aspect to this conversation, which is very, very important. Now, fun fact about Manish. What do you think he was up to in terms of sports when he was at university in Singapore, par excellence?
Polo.
It was field hockey. And what do we call it? What role did you play?
Well, I took the easiest role. It was the goalkeeper, but also I was the captain of the team.
Right. Oh, okay. Thank you, Manish. Please have a seat. You're next to me here, Manish. Yes. Last but not least is somebody who the last time I met him was when I was at school, I think in Form 2 or 3. And it's such an honor to meet him again today after, I think, almost 20, 30 years. I won't reveal my age, I'm sorry. But it's such an honor to meet Mr. David White today and for him to have accepted to be on the panel. Please, big round of applause. For those of you who know him, he's known for his candidness and his blunt approach to saying things, and we are very privileged to have you here. You're not just an HR person, but you also have been very active in executive coaching, business transformation as well. And you have had to be a bit of a mediator between HR and the board many a time. So we are very, very privileged to have you here. Please have a seat next to us. Oh, your fun fact. Shall I say it? You did ask me whether I could say it. But I'll ask the audience. So fun fact that he wants to say, and you can tell me if we can actually, please, HR Café followers. Can we say that he dated 5 Jacqueline? Was it 4 or 5? 4 consecutive Jacqueline. But then he got married to Françoise. There you go, that's David for you. So, can't wait to listen to you all. Any Jacqueline here? Right, so before we delve into the topic, I just wanted to take 1 minute of your time. I did mention at the start that HR Café, and some of you present here, I know Manish was there for Dave, Fiona was here, Fiona from MCCI, yes. We met at the Assises du Travail et de l'Emploi. Since we're all business people, Telma was there as well. It's important just to see a little bit of what happened over the Assies du Travail. Would you like to hear about that? Yeah? So it was a 3-day thing that started on Tuesday, ended on Thursday, full day, 9 to 4. In the audience, we had representation from government, private sector, and we also had who? Trade unions, yes. I did feel that trade unions were more, to be very honest, than the rest of us, but I spoke to an advisor there, they said no, it was equal. I mean, you have to take them for their word. Anish already saying no. And the debate covered various topics. Over the 3 days, we were divided into groups. The first day was around the Workers' Rights Act, where some of you should have heard about it. There's talk about a 40-hour week. That's coming back on the cards. 40-hour week, meaning that we will be following recommendations from ILO. It's just a question of time that the 40-hour week will be in place. Now, private sector, we did push back a lot and said that we are fine for it, but there needs to be careful thought and strategy over its implementation. I think we've all had enough of decisions being dumped. This is not me being a syndicat du travail, de l'emploi ici. But speaking on behalf of all of you, we did say that we do need some more time. There was talk about clarifying leave entitlements as well, and all other forms of conditions of employment. The second day was about health and safety, was also about mental wellness at the workplace. Skills shortage was in the morning, migration skills shortage, curtailing the brain drain. All of that was there, but in the group, most of us were divided into different groups. And we had questions that we needed to answer. So like 4 questions that the Ministry of Labour put in front on the board and asked us to answer. Just to give you an insight, without saying too much and not making this sort of a political thing, the questions, some of them we refused to answer because it was already at implementation stage. For example, 40-hour week. They were already asking us our opinion on how do we calculate overtime, shift work in 24 hours of where companies are working 24 hours around the clock. So we refused to answer all of that. The last day was about industrial relations. You must have guessed the tensions in the room and the voices that got raised, and some manners as well got lost. But I think all in all, private sector did a pretty good job at pushing our word and our beliefs forward. But now what happens is not in our hands. What the minister has said is that they're going to collate all the findings. Everything that was said was recorded, will be transcribed and put in a paper, and there might be other workshops coming up. So watch this space. I'm not sure really at this point in time. I'm sure those who were present, Manish, Fiona and everyone, not sure whether our voices have been properly recorded to start with. That's all. But I think we've done our job, and now let's see. But major changes will most likely come. The Assies happens every 10 years or so, so it's going to be major things. So please gear up for that. Okay, enough of dull faces now. I'm sorry if I got you worried, but I thought there's nothing to really worry about at this stage. We will be doing our job in advocating, but it's important that we all know what's happened, and this is the mission of HR Café as well, to be up to date with trends. Are we ready for the big debate? So, to kickstart, I would like, so we have 2 microphones here. One is over here, so that now let you be the microphone manager, and then this one can flow between Matthew and you, I can just share it. I'd like to ask David to please just brosser le tableau pour nous. When we talk of the divide between HR, the board, and CEOs, is it a myth? Is it something that some of us believe exists, or what has been your experience?
Well, can you hear me? Should I stand or should I keep sitting? Ladies and gentlemen, the CEO, yes, saying keep sitting. Yeah, the last time, I intervened in such a forum, there was someone who came to see me. He said, well, beautiful, you say very beautiful things. Thank you so much. I'm deeply touched by what you said. I say, well, thank you. I'm deeply honored. And then a few people came, and he came again and said, oh, it was dull. hey, what's something wrong here? And then, okay, he had just cut my energy, but I kept greeting other people. And he came again and said, whoa, it was absolutely dull. And then I turned to the guy who invited me and said, who is this guy? He said, don't worry, he repeats what everyone says. So I hope I'm saying things that, yeah. But I think, just to come back to your question, you know, I've got a very atypical work in the field of HR. I would say I came to HR in an accidental manner, but I've always been, you know, I'm probably the youngest person here in the room. Who is 18? The clock has never changed for me, I'm still 18. And by the way, Manish and I, we share the same birth date, not the same year. I'm part of the May 1975, which was a major breakthrough in Mauritius. I think this is a fundamental year when we started looking at businesses and the rapport and the social rapport of people, government, businesses differently. And ever since we've grown, we've made a lot of progress, and there's still much more. So when I remember when I first met Françoise, she was definitely in the mind she's going to study law and then go into HR. And I just told her, because I was probably formatted by the early days of the MMM, even though my family has been traditionally on the labor side, but I was the one who flirted, you know, with leftist ideas. And I said, hey, petite bourgeoise. Because this was the perception, if you go into HR, you are a bourgeois. You're not with the people, so you are, you know, pro-management, pro-whatever. And it went like that. And finally, I always wanted to be in HR, but not the kind of HR, you know, things were very fuzzy at the time. And when HR started in Mauritius, it didn't start, you all know, it started, you know, as personal managers. We had personal managers in the sugar industry, and most of them were seen just to be disciplinary masters, and to be very good, you know, at mastering labor laws. And it's as if you're going to the hospital every morning. When you went to the sugar factory, you would see people lining up just to be scorned by the HR manager. Not the HR, the personal manager. But these guys, they had a lot of respect, because the culture was very different. CEOs really liked them. People were not called CEOs at the time, they were called, you know, general managers. And they were the top advisors, and they had a lot of leverage, and they were very influential in the kind of decision, and they've been very influential probably till the turn of the century, when the whole sugar industry reconfigured. And then you had a next generation of people coming. These were the Dan Bundus, the Norman Cox, and Monica Morel. They were all with Rogers. Then Rogers went through a major right-sizing. Monica left. She was made redundant. And the trading industry in Mauritius starts with her. And she came along with the HRDC. Not the HRDC, the creation of the ITB. And then the HRDC came, and then the MQA. By the way, I've seen Robin put up. Yeah, Robin was the late director. They say he's retired, but he's not retired. He's retiring. Mosafeer, R-E-T-Y. That's it. You're reinventing yourself. And again, Dan Bandu himself had a lot of influence on many decisions. Dan worked with your father very closely, and there was great synergy. You see, the very important thing with this generation of people is that they had not only influence within their organization, they had influence on the whole industry, the whole private sector, and much more. They built bridges with the civil service. And I think this is sadly missing today. We don't have people of this caliber who can build those bridges with civil service and other government sectors. Dan is no more here. Norman died. Monica is still here. I think she must be nearing her 80s. And she's been a mentor to people like my wife, Françoise, like Edition of HR, a few others, and to myself. I was the most turbulent of all the people, but what I want to say, there has always been that synergy between the CEOs at the time and HR. Now, I think it's not up to the CEO to engage with HR. It's up to the HR to really engage. And how you play that game, this is in your hands. You've got more tools, you've got more wisdom in some way, you've got more insights, but how can you be real strategic partners to CEOs, to businesses? How can you span a greater reputation for your jobs? How do you win respect in what you do? What language do you talk? Do you talk HR language, or you have to talk business language, CEO language? So the name of the game has changed. And I think there is a seed for us. There are beautiful examples of HR doing magnificent work, but there is also areas where I hear CEOs complaining about the level of proficiency of their HR, and this is a little bit sad. So let me start.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you for this trip down memory lane and telling us about the history between HR and management and senior management. I do hear you when you say that we need to be advocating more with government. Just to say that we have by and by been inviting the Ministry of Labour and government officials. The Minister apologised again today, but hopefully one day we'll still persevere on that. Let me come to you, Matthew. You're the CEO of Scott. You're somebody who has at heart the financial health of the organisation, the long-term viability. How do you reconcile, as the captain, this short-term pressure for immediate bottom-line results with the long-term strategic necessity of investing in people?
Yes, thanks. Yes, the board does put pressure on financial results, but luckily we have a team, and at the end of the day, it's the people that make things happen. So, and then obviously the strategy is there, how do you break it down into concrete actions over the next couple of years. And it's not, I think Janet is here today. Since I was appointed CEO, I insisted always to have the HR along my board. And traditionally it's always been that the CFO would need to have financial goals. And today Scott is very much in the business of people. Because at the end of the day, all the products we do sell are consumed by consumers, and there's a lot of psychology somewhere behind that. So to make our brands live, it's the people behind that that are passionate to make things like that. So we do live through our values.
Thank you. Thank you. I must say that's been a very generic answer, Matthew. Can you give us Can you give us without going into the confidential aspect of the conversation, but isn't there at times sort of a dichotomy between what you're trying to achieve and what Javed wants to achieve, and how he's pushing you and you have to say no? How do you manage that? The expectations need to rescue, because behind HR is a whole fleet of people.
We actually get on quite well. We're more in a Coldplay relationship.
Confidential information.
I think yes. I'm always fighting to have the right people, obviously. That's the think that's important because at the end of the day, it's easier said than done. But it's true. I think if we look at long term, investing in people is the only way forward.
A little bit better, thank you. I don't think you want to get into Cold War with Janet, that's why. We've understood. We've understood. Manish, now you've worked with a few CEOs, you've worked with different boards. I'd like to ask you, when they're primarily focused on business targets and profitability, what's the most effective strategy for an HR leader to shift their mindset from cost-cutting to value creation, especially when discussing people investments?
So, thank you for the question, Anila. I believe the answer is simply to talk the same language. Okay? Very often, we might be talking about the same thing, but we're talking different frequencies. First thing, the first reframe I would add to that is it's not about cost cutting, it's about cost management. So, as a business, the HR function for me is here to provide people solutions to the business. Okay? So, in whatever form that helps the business achieve its objectives and goals. And if you look at it, how many of you are manage people here? Probably everyone, right? You have to manage people. And I'm sure you will agree with me that 80% of your issues are people issues. Everyone is nodding their head.
Heavy nods.
So, and when it comes to that, for me, the HR function has two roles. One is to provide people solutions to the business, be it in terms of skills, in terms of resources, and making sure we have the right people at the right place, with the right relationships in place. And second is, that element is to equip managers to better manage their people. So that's acting as a facilitator in the process to help them. Because at the end of the day, it's not up to HR to manage all the people. It's up to the manager to manage their resources, their people. So equipping them, accompanying them is another role. So in that sense, when you look at it, when you start to align and talk in those elements, in that language, you create alignment. With regards to understanding what are the business challenges, what are the objectives and the goals that we have, and how do we support that for the organization.
Thank you for these insights. You talk about alignment. When I was researching about this topic, I just want to quote something on alignment with you all. There's a research by Gartner in 2021-2023 that shows that companies with high-performing HR functions see up to 7% growth in revenue and 9% increase in profit. And the University of Melbourne in 2015-2020 did a research and confirms that aligned organizations are 31% more likely to meet their business targets. So I think we can't downplay this, or what you just mentioned about aligning priorities and speaking the same language as the board. Thank you. Over to the charming love now. How are you feeling? Je sais pas trop. I'm sure you're going to be absolutely warmed up in a while. So when your CEO, who is also in the room, is asking for proof of return on investment, you know these days return on investment, payback is the jargon. When the CEO is asking for return on investment on every HR initiative, what is the non-financial piece of data that you use to build a business case, to advocate?
Bon, déjà commencer, aujourd'hui le rôle de HR a vraiment beaucoup évolué. Le rôle de HR ne peut plus être vu comme un rôle administratif. Quand je dis administratif, auparavant, je me rappelle quand j'avais joint comme HR, on disait oh, c'est un département un peu administratif, c'est processing salary, et petit recrutement de gauche à droite, et aussi de drafter les contrats. Mais aujourd'hui, on sait qu'on peut montrer qu'avec des KPI très clairs, comment les actions de HR aujourd'hui alignent avec la performance de la compagnie au niveau de productivité. Alors il y a beaucoup aujourd'hui des KPI qui parlent, des KPI qu'on fait en tant que HR. Un des KPI c'est le taux de rétention. On sait dans une compagnie quand le taux de rétention est quand même haut, ça montre que les employés sont fidèles à la compagnie. Ça montre que quand même les employés sont motivés à travailler. Et quand il y a une hausse comme ça, quand on voit que le taux de rétention est là, et on voit aussi que le coût de recrutement est bas, et il y a une continuité de service. Alors aujourd'hui, l'équipe école beaucoup pour présenter les CEO. On arrive à advoquer un des KPI aussi qu'on s'en sert. Là en ce moment, c'est le BNPS, Employee Net Promoter Score. On sait quand on a un score un petit peu plus que 40%, ça montre que l'engagement des employés sont là, qu'il y a aussi le health of the company et aussi the positive culture at the company. Et quand on dit positive culture, on sait très bien que c'est à ce moment-là, c'est un peu plus facile, on dirait, de recruter. Le KPI aussi qu'on peut s'en servir, c'est le taux d'absentéisme. C'est un des KPI qui fait parler beaucoup de nos jours. Quand il y a un taux d'absentéisme qui est très bas, ça montre aussi qu'il y a une productivité qui est standard. Et il y a aussi moins des overtime à payer. On peut dire que CEO, moins d'overtime parce que les gens sont pas malades. Ils sont là, ils sont contents dans le lieu de travail. Mais comme ça, si moi j'ai besoin d'advoquer, il y a des KPI que je fais, des KPI, des quantités, KPI, bien sûr des data. Peut-être c'est pas des chiffres financial, mais quand même ça montre des pourcentages. Alors c'est plus joué avec aujourd'hui avec des KPI qu'on présente vraiment aussi mieux.
Merci d'introduire ce concept de KPI et data monitoring. J'imagine que chez Max City, quand même, vous êtes dans plusieurs secteurs à la fois. Il y a le retail, nous tous qui sommes dans le retail nous savons très bien les challenges de retaining people. It's a highly volatile market. Vous êtes aussi dans la construction avec ces autres challenges, property management. How do you strike that balance and keep the board happy?
C'est beaucoup plus des open discussions. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, si on a un projet au niveau de HR, c'est plus comme avant. Auparavant, c'est comme si, quand je me rappelle, quand j'avais commencé à travailler, je rencontrais le CEO, le management, peut-être quand il y avait un souci. Mais aujourd'hui, j'ai comme si un weekly meeting avec le CEO. Alors le dialogue même est différent comparé à avant. The relationship is different, it's very positive. Et même si ce n'est pas positive, it's very constructive.
Would you all agree here on the panel que la relation a évolué, que ça devient de plus en plus Coldplay, on dirait la Coldplay concert. I don't know if the audience. Il y a beaucoup plus d'alignement. Yes, Lewis? Right, okay. Going back to KPIs, Manish, what's the role of HR data analytics? Quelle régularité faut-il vraiment avoir au cours au data? For me, that's just me speaking as a person, not an HR. The human element is important, and data, can it actually replicate that human element in the organization?
Yeah, it goes hand in hand. The fact that the principle being what gets measured gets managed. Okay? So, for example, on our side, given that we are across 15 different sectors today, it's important that we have a dashboard when it comes to the people function across the group, depending on the sector as well. So some of the elements that we look at when it comes to, I was mentioning retention, so the other thing that we look at is, well, definitely engagement, but also the positions. So what we've done is we've identified, we look at the organization and not look at the people first, but look at the roles first. So then from there, you segregate the roles into 3 categories. What are your most critical positions? By critical positions, I mean those where it has an impact on the business. If that person who is in that position leaves, it has a severe impact. So you identify your critical positions. Second, you identify what you call hot jobs. Hot jobs is not that it's a hot seat, but it's more jobs that are very much in demand on the market at the moment. So, for example, today a hot job would be if you're looking for someone in AI and machine learning. So that's a hot job, and it evolves with time. And third is the rest of the position. So identifying the position and then making sure you have the right people in the right place. So the importance of metrics allows you then to, the idea is to measure and report to the board. What are the people risks that you have? What are you doing to mitigate that? So what are the attrition positions that you have, and what are you doing in a sense either to build a pipeline, to retain, or to source for this position so that you have a constant pipeline. If we look at it in Mauritius today, we are in a situation of the talent pool is shrinking, which means it's inevitable that we will have to have recourse to more and more to foreign labor. So how are we then sourcing foreign labor? What are the measures you're putting in place, not only to source, but when you onboard them, you provide decent accommodation, decent conditions, and so on. So all these become extremely important to measure and to manage.
What is the one matrix that you would recommend organizations to use nowadays?
One is not enough.
Choose maybe one or
I would say two. Let's say one would be engagement, definitely. So call it ENPS or engagement score, that gives you a pulse. It's a bit the heartbeat of the organization, so that's a critical one. And the second one, I would say, has to do with, let's say, it's really related to your attrition level, because this is something which is very dynamic. So how are you measuring it? One dimension would be, what is the attrition level in terms of what are your top 5 positions in attrition, and what is the attrition level in the first year in the organization.
And so therefore that helps put in place the mitigating factors against these. I think what you say applies to any size of organization, from 10 and above, isn't it? Using matrix and objective information to take decisions has to be the way forward now. Thank you. David, any comments from your side with your experience working with boards and the HR, having heard us talk so far?
I think right now, thank you. I think right now what I'm seeing is that I don't know how far this is spread through organizations in Mauritius, but I've been recently involved in the culture assessment of one of the units of the United Nations worldwide. And in one day I traveled the whole world interviewing people online. Yeah.
Just for everyone, what's culture assessment?
Culture assessment, because now the trend seems to say one of the probably data metrics is the culture of organizations. What kind of culture? Is it a culture which is going to attract, retain, where people, because let's not forget that shortly after COVID, it has been proven, research is telling us that people are in search of meaning. People have asked themselves a lot of existential questions following COVID, and we are seeing it also here in Mauritius. And people want to work in places where the culture is people-centric. One of the tools which we used in our assessment was the Denizen framework, where you assess, okay, obviously it's more complex than that, probably I should have put a picture of it, but you can go on the net and find. You assess the mission of the organization. This is more towards, the outward, how the organization is perceived outwardly. You will be measuring also the adaptability to the market, to the business landscape out there. And then internally, you would look at adaptability, and you would also look at all the aspects of HR, MAIC, and the C is consistency. How consistent the organization is with execution. And I think this seems to be the kind of future where human capital is going, because culture is very important. I learned it myself, but didn't know of all the sophistication coming with it when I discovered the tools. I remember once telling a CEO I worked with, I don't think this guy is going to be a good fit because it won't fit our culture here. But at times we all have egos. I'm not saying CEO egos, we all have egos, but he wanted to have it. So when your CEO wants to hang himself, you should give him the rope. So he wanted to hang himself. I warned him, but he was so powerful, I allowed him to warn. And when they first met, it was cheat toi, and so on. And after 3 months, the relationship had got toxic and sour. And he came and asked me to get rid of the guy. I said, no, I'm not doing this job, you get rid of it. Yeah. So the culture is becoming probably one of the meta metrics. Everything which has been shared by Manish, very, very, very important. We need to have these metrics, but now how are we culture facilitators? How we change culture organizations?
Thank you for bringing the culture conversation to the equation. Do you want to say something? Okay, right. Yeah, was it Peter Drucker who said culture eats strategy for breakfast, isn't it? Yeah, so I think that culture is everything in an organization. Matthew, is that something that you feel the board is aligned with? And do you have any recommendations when it comes to setting a culture that not only fosters people and growth, but also brings in the results?
It's interesting. This comes from a strategic kind of offsite between the management and the president of the board. And one of the key strategies going forward is actually culture. It's strategy for breakfast. This was part of the theme. So this is interesting. And today I think yes, as David said, since COVID, I think a sense of needing, people come and look for a sense of purpose, rather than just doing a 9-to-5 job or whatever. And this is something that we very much favor put into place. And how to measure that is an interesting element as well. We carry out these kind of pulse surveys as well, but with very simple questions, because sometimes if you look at too many questions, it kills basically, are you happy at work? And basically we run these surveys every 3 months and always ask just 4 questions. Come on with different elements of what makes people happy at work. And this is key for us.
Thank you. Thank you for this, Matthew. Before we end the panel discussion time, I'll just make a quick round through the panel. We should just ask you for your best practice when it comes to aligning HR with the board and youth. Shall we start with you, Manish? We'll just take it in turns.
So the question is, what is the best practice?
What is the magic formula to go to a Coldplay concert with your CEO?
The magic formula is to listen and to lead with questions.
To listen
and to lead with questions.
Okay. Tell us.
Right. So what it means is, because I mentioned the principle is that as HR we're here to provide people solutions. Okay, to the business, and it's really by listening and leading with questions, understanding what are the pain points, what are the challenges, what are the goals, what's the strategy and ambition, that then you can align and provide solutions. Whereas what happens is we create assumptions in our mind that this is what the organization needs, that's what the leader is looking for. Very rarely do we really clarify the assumption. What are the top challenges or priorities of your CEO at the moment? I'll give you an example. I was checking my message just now. We have an issue in Madagascar at the moment where this event. And the top priority of the CEO at the moment, I was checking and I was exchanging on that, is the security and safety of our people on the ground there. So you see how the priorities change, and now, so as we finish, I have to follow up with the teams and see people need to be flown out from there and liaise with, for example, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So listening and leading with questions is, for me, the way forward in that sense. And the second element, the second best practice is our role, because human resources, culture, and so on is so implicit, so I would say intangible, that our role is to make it move from implicit to explicit, from intangible to tangible. That's our role, is to demystify it so that people can understand it and then measure and manage it.
Just to bounce back on this, intangible to tangible, is that what you mean by KPIs, matrix, data,
and models?
To back up?
Yeah, let me give you an example. David was talking about culture, and Matthew as well. Culture is very intangible. It's in the air. You know, everyone has a different meaning to culture. So, but the idea is to align everyone again on the same language. What does culture mean? What does it mean for us? How do we define our culture? How do we measure it? How do we shape it? One thing that I've learned along the journey is when you start to talk about changing culture, you get a resistance. So you have to reframe it from, we're not here to change culture, we're here to shape culture. Actually.
That's a beautiful way to put it, shaping culture. Over to you, Matt.
I mean, I think, as said, I mean, I see HR as very much a facilitator. And as the leader of the team, as well as the CEO, I've had different business managers, and often what sometimes happens is anything that's to do with people as the HR's problem. Too easy.
Thank you for saying that.
And I think what we try to do and to support the HR team is they will come and with solutions, but it's up to the business head to take the decision, to enforce the decision. Obviously, we need to look at the legal aspect, a little bit of coaching around that, but at the end of the day, leader of the team has to take ownership of leading the team. And sometimes go through some difficult moments with, I mean, as you said, 80% even as a CEO of our problems is human problems or people problems. The bank sometimes are a problem as well, but it's 80% of our problems is a people issue across the organization. So it's how to make sure the business leaders have the tools to make the right decisions.
So it's really sensitizing the board and everyone else that people issues are not just about, it's not just for HR. Everyone, every leader in an organization needs to be accountable, responsible, and take ownership of the journey that people are on in the organization. Thank you. It's beautiful coming from the CEO. Thank you for this. Yes. Love that.
Yes. Pour moi, je dirais des feedback sessions, qui est très important en ce moment, des constructive feedback sessions, où on pratique vraiment ce qu'on appelle brutal honesty. Bon, quand je dis brutal honesty, c'est pas taper les personnes, c'est rien à voir avec ça.
Comme les syndicats,
non, du tout pas. Je sais le mot est un peu harsh, mais c'est not brutal like this. C'est vraiment de parler en toute transparence, de pouvoir comprendre, parce qu'à la fin du jour, quand on parle du brutal honesty, c'est par la suite d'avoir qu'est-ce qu'on va faire, trouver la solution et de sortir dans le meeting align with the CEO and the HR. Alors pour moi aujourd'hui les feedback sessions, brutal honesty, c'est très très important.
Merci pour ce rappel. Donc ce que je retiens, c'est que having the hard conversations is important.
Très important.
And it is for the HR to embody that force and energy to have the hard conversations with the senior leadership team. Si on ne le fait pas, la conscientisation ne va pas se faire to bring impact.
Je pense oui, si on ne le fait pas, parce que the burden is on us as HR, parce qu'on les staff, on des attentes envers les HR. Peut-être qu'ils ne vont pas partir directement le CEO, so we have to bridge the gap. We have to bridge the gap, we have to go to the CEO. On n'a pas trop le choix.
Thank you. On ressent votre passion. Over to you, David.
As you may know, my background is business psychology. I agree, concur with everything which has been said. And probably, if I may, I would also add, as HR, we need to have very good people inside. We have, we shouldn't be making any kind of mistake here. Because the title of our interaction is Coldplay, in any interaction, there is something which is at play. And we need to understand when two persons are interacting, there is the tip of the iceberg, this is the interaction, this is the 85-15% rule, 85-15, and 85% is below the surface. And this is about our core motivation, this is about our fears, this is about our leadership style. And very often, HR, we can make the wrong move when we don't understand the core motivations and the fears of our CEOs. Let's say if you've got a dominant kind of CEO who wants to be right all the time, and you are more somebody whose core motivation is to make the people agenda efficient, you're bound to clash. You're bound to clash. I didn't learn HR from textbooks, from schools. I'm not blaming anyone. I learned HR more from the mistakes which I've made. They usually say a consultant is someone who takes your watch to tell you the time. But I'm the kind of consultant who will tell you the mistakes which I've made. And I've paid very, very hard prices for the kind of mistakes which I've made. But they've been the best learning experiences. I even went through burnout, and today everybody's talking about burnout, they don't know what they are talking. Real burnout, you take an average 2 to 3 years to come back from a burnout. You don't take, a short sick leave of 3 days and then you come back, I had a burnout. You had an exhaustion. This is not burnout. So I guess people understand that, understand the subconscious dynamics which is going up there. And talk a lot about managing that. This is, I think, the value addition we can bring to our profession. And make sure that I have understood the core motivation of a few CEOs. Well, there's only one I have a very tough relationship. I would have probably spared a burnout, I would have probably spared costly mistakes which I've made. So, in addition to everything that's been said, it's very important that we are aware of this. And maybe we could have another cafe only on this.
Thank you, David. I think you bring to the table powerful insights, and the sensitization of the CEO speaking, making them understand the challenges is what I retain as key takeaway here. It's not always, we can't take for granted that our board, our CEOs will understand unless it's spelled out. And that's the role of HR people in the organization as well. Thank you so much. Let's move on to question and answers. We do know that our HR Café audience is normally very talkative and has lots to say, so we've shortened by and by again the panel discussion to give you more time. And I have Rima somewhere at the back. You can fetch a microphone from me and help me. So if you could just raise your hand very high, and when introducing, introduce yourself by saying who you are, what organization, and if your question is addressed to somebody in particular on the panel, please name the person. Over to you. Please stand up so that.
Thank you. I'm Farah from Blue Fox, my own company. My question is open to everybody, actually, whoever wants to reply. You mentioned something in the beginning, 45 hours coming to 40 hours, which is going to be, it's just a matter of time. And Manish, you also mentioned something about KPI. You mentioned KPI, you mentioned people-centric. So my question is, aren't we doing the same, repeating the same pattern that we've been doing? Like, things are changing, especially with technology and everything. How do we change our way of thinking to be able to adapt to the 40 hours, without it impacting our figures? And if there are CFOs in the room. And also, where do we draw the line between KPI and the people-centric approach? Because we have to respect KPIs. I know CEOs, figures and everything. But where do we draw that line, basically? How do we think differently?
Before any of the panelists take this up, I'd just like to add that during the Assis, Trade unions were really advocating for 40-hour week, but do not touch salaries, do not touch benefits, everything stays the same. Adding this to the complexity of your, to the one who's going to take up this answer. Okay, Manish.
Yeah, so I was there at City Tower, and one of the things that from the employer side we put forward is we said we're not against it, but the point is you can't just apply a change and already decided it without a proper impact assessment. To be a bit provocative on that, on this side, I would say Adila was, I would say, very polite and politically correct when she said we are represented and so on, but my concern was a lot of sectors were not represented. Hospitality wasn't there, financial services wasn't there, manufacturing wasn't there. Key sectors would be impacted by a 40-hour work week. So you're implementing things and saying we're having dialogue, but you're not even listening to what are the concerns. The concern that was raised when we come to, for example, the 40-hour work week is we're not against it, but it has to be an ecosystem change that needs to come in place. That is, we are already facing labor shortage, skill shortage in the country. And it's getting harder and harder to find people. Not only good people, but find people to fill in our operations. Today, if I take hospitality, we in hospitality, a lot of hotels are having to curb the occupancy rate because of lack of people. So occupancy rate is stuck at around 85 to 90%, not more, because we cannot service because of the lack of people. So now as we shift to a 40-hour week, what does that mean? We are going to put more pressure on our operations, getting people to do more overtime. So when we come to the people-centric metrics, that would mean that you're paying more overtime, but at the same time, it's to the detriment of work-life balance. People are having to do more because we still have an issue which hasn't been sorted out. The root cause is the lack of people. It's a numbers issue. So I think what's important is to be able to put that forward very clearly by industry. So something like that cannot just be all across one size fits all approach. It has to be in consultation with the different industries to understand what is the impact and how do we best apply it within their context.
Thank you. Yes, we have a question at the back. Second row, sorry.
Hi, I'm Thelma from Limestone Manufacturing. So I'm always advocating for SME, micro enterprise. With all the changes, like in technology, SMEs cannot afford a full-time HR. So from all your perspective, what would you advise us? Because 40 hours is not possible for us to keep on paying the time. We cannot get any help from HR consultant because you guys cost a lot for us.
David does.
So, your advice, please. Thank you.
Anyone wants to take up
Je vais essayer. Là, récemment, nous, on a essayé quelque chose. Je ne sais pas si ça va marcher pour vous. On commence à écrire les process. Pour toutes les tâches qu'on fait, on essaye à écrire les process. Quand on commence à écrire les process, on réalise qu'il y a des process qu'on peut automer. On peut automer avec le AI. Beaucoup peut se faire aujourd'hui avec le AI. Et c'est une façon qui peut aider. Je ne sais pas 40 heures temps ou moins, mais je peux vous dire que ça aide beaucoup parce qu'on réalise qu'aujourd'hui il y a beaucoup de recurring tasks qui peuvent vraiment se faire par des outils AI, différents outils, à cost-wise, écoutez. Mais bon, je peux vous dire, ça va vous coûter moins qu'un HR.
Alors, peut-être je peux rajouter dessus. Just that for an SME, you don't need an HR full-time actually. What you could do is there are companies where, or HR consultants, or provide a service as what you call a part-time HR, a part-time service, or a virtual HR service. So you could explore that option where auteur-d'une semaine par semaine, just for a capacity building and accompaniment and guidance on what are your main issues. And the idea is not to manage the whole HR, it's really to help you manage your main issues. What are your top 3 challenges that you face? And then from there, how can you get support and help on that? That's what I would advise.
Thank you. Yes, we have a question from, let's take a question from this side, so that we're a little bit sort of equitable in our approach, and then we'll come to you, Corinne. Yes.
Yes, hi. I'm going to talk about more what's happening globally. I believe today, are we really looking at how we're future-proofing our generation, right? So whether it's at home, whether it's us as business leaders, I manage team 4,000 people in Africa, and you touched about culturally how things are different, and that's my challenge. The way I'm going to address people in Botswana is very different to Mozambique or Mauritius. Now, how can CEO and HR people come together so that we can create sustainable value? That's my fear, right? Because we are looking at the model that's today is relevant. In a couple of weeks, it's irrelevant. I fear this. This is my biggest fear. I keep awake at night because how can I bring this sort of skill set to my team, to my co-workers, to my peers? It's in a world that's really, really volatile. I'm facing the same challenges as you are, and I don't know. That's the question. How do we fix this?
Thank you. You're from which company?
Africa HR Solution.
Africa HR.
So we employ expats across non-African to African.
Thank you for this question. Now, I doubt you would have a concrete answer to your question because, you know, evolution is such that things are moving so fast and priorities are changing so fast. But I will ask the panel if anyone wants to give it a try or just come close to providing some sort of maybe a pathway. Yeah, thank you.
I thought David would have an answer.
I think what's important is to take a few steps back, and I think it's important as well is obviously when you're in daily operations you don't have that time to take a step back, but probably take a few steps back, get a little bit of data, analyze that. That's the way we try to do things as well, because when you're day to day you don't really, you can be a bit overwhelmed by all of this.
What would you say that?
I go kitesurfing. So.
Yeah. What would you say that elephant in the room then?
Sorry?
What would you say is that elephant in the room?
That elephant in the room. I mean, I think obviously Africa is quite complex as well, with different cultures and different countries. Luckily, in my role as a CEO, I don't face this kind of issues. That's a few steps back, and do you have a good relationship with your CEO as well?
Yeah.
And you are the CEO as well. And
that's the challenge.
So you're a CEO of the HR business, which is the challenge. David, do you have any?
Yeah, I may provide one or two insights, but see, this is a very, very important question. I think our future is linked to Africa. I've been working in probably 17 African countries, including countries of the Indian Ocean. And folks, when I started working, my boss, who used to be the CEO of a leading business school here, you know, Africans are, but I've told you that I'm turbulent. There's always been that restlessness in me that we look at Africans with our goggles, with our lenses, which are totally dysfunctional and inaccurate. Africa has changed me. Africa has converted me. Africa has taught me on an equal foot. African executives are probably 5 times better than our executives here in Mauritius. If you agree with me, you are applaud. I think this has been the biggest conversion. I love Africa, I've got a heart for Africa, and we should all have a heart for Africa. We want people to build a business, the future of Mauritius, without the African support. We need to bring, okay, we live in a world of permanent crisis. Make no mistake about that. We need to have an agile mindset. We need to be open. We need cultural intelligence. Africans are better at IT. So many things, name them, they are there. but still media is still portraying them, as very unstable. It's just unfortunate what is happening in Madagascar. If you get to Madagascar lately, you can see how the country is booming, but unfortunately, what is happening is happening. But we shouldn't, stop our thoughts about this. I think we need to develop cultural intelligence. We are in the same boat. We talk a lot of talent today, and we should be talking about talentship. And this is, I think, what you're doing here, there, with HR Africa. It's talentship. I think we need to create those platforms where we can learn, where we can exchange information. Okay, we've got 1,800 square kilometers, and our mindset is very often fickle-minded, small-minded. But when you are in Africa, when you see the dreams of African leadership collectively, when you see that the country that will be driving economic power in the next 10 years, you're going to fall off from your chair. So, I don't have an answer, and I think we should come together and look for meaning. And I think Manish said something earlier, and you said something. We need to be listening, and we need to have those tough conversations, and we need to ask the right questions. And get rid of our stupid mindset in Mauritius. We're thinking, nous sommes sortis de l'église de Jupiter. We are better than others. We need, and this is the HR board. I would challenge the HR community. You need to fight this. You need to stop that, thinking that we are superior. We are no superior. Bientôt, nous serons les cancres de la classe. We're going to be the scum of this part of the world, because of our own dysfunctional way of working. But my hope, my belief, you are a better generation. My generation, I'm so ashamed of what my generation has done in this country. But I believe in your generation, and I give you back to mine.
Quand David parlait ça, frappé aussi que, when we talk about Europe, we don't talk about Europe, we talk about France, UK, Germany, Italy, but when we talk about Africa, it's Africa. So it's as if it's a country, it's not a country. It's a continent, it's massive, and yet we tend to generalize things, thinking it is everyone, put everyone under the same boat, So the idea is really to really focus on the ground in terms of what is the culture there, what is the requirement, what are the challenges there. The challenge, I'm sure, between Botswana and South Africa or Kenya will be very different. So then really, how do you approach it with that element of you are really acting local and making sure you're providing value to their context. That's the main difference.
We'll just give the opportunity to other people. You can continue doing the networking, yeah? Yeah. Sorry, conscious of time, but it's a very interesting debate, and maybe we should focus another HR Café on this topic of... now, just to say that as somebody in HR as well, what I would recommend is what David, he used the word being agile. I think we need to embrace agility. We need to hold our processes and systems tight, but at the same time loose enough to adapt depending on the territory that we're in, and be open-minded. I mean, the way we did things 5 days ago or 10 years ago is going to change rapidly. It's a fact, and we have to embrace that change is the only constant nowadays. That's my 2 cents. We had Corinne who's been waiting patiently, and I did see a show of hands around here, Luna, afterwards.
Merci, je vais prêcher pour ma paroisse et je vais parler justement, merci madame d'avoir fait allusion aux consultants qui coûtent cher. Je suis consultante moi-même et je trouve qu'il y a beaucoup de clichés sur justement par rapport aux ressources humaines et au management des employés. Est-ce qu'il y a eu une évolution, David, toi tu es passé des deux côtés on va dire, est-ce qu'il y a une évolution par rapport à cette perception des consultants qui sont chers, parce que j'ai de la chance par exemple de travailler pour McCity depuis de nombreuses années et je fais partie de l'équipe. Le CEO Lewis dont on me présente, je fais intégrante partie de l'équipe. Est-ce qu'il y a eu un changement, une évolution par rapport à ça? On parle de manque d'employés, de manque de profil. Est-ce que la solution, ce ne serait pas aussi d'employer des consultants avec un œil différent pour répondre à des missions spécifiques? Parce que le consultant doit performer pour pouvoir continuer à garder son contrat.
Alors, je vois plusieurs consultants qui vont bouger la tête là, hein, déjà. La question était adressée à toi.
Je vais en 2 mots. Merci Corinne pour ta question. Okay. I work with a French guy in a very, very large business at the turn of the century. And he defined consultants as des sultans de la connerie. And I love that. Now, I have never seen myself as a consultant. But as an HR, you are an in-house consultant. You are a consultant to all the executives, to all the people you deal with. You are the first consultant of the CEO. Make no mistake about that. But I think, consultancy has been a word which has become very devalued. But we are business partners. I don't want touch and go when I'm working with an organization. This is the first condition which I make. And I hate the word consultant because it's devenu un mot creux. We are business partners. We've got an expertise. We interact with you. We are facilitators. We help you. This is, we need to bring more. Pas d'intégrité, plus d'intégrité, plus de valeur à notre rôle. And we are your partners in helping you, it's our soul, whatever you have said, but to bring value, we are value creators in our roles. I think this needs to be understood. And probably the thing is that forums like this are opportunities for us to network. As consultants, we should be networking. And there are things which I do and there are things I don't do. Voilà, je te branche là-bas. And these are the kind of things that we should be doing.
Merci. Just to bounce back a little bit, I think les consultants, même des fois, we're the reason why there's so much préjugé against us, parce que anyone can call themselves consultants. Unfortunately, you want a career change, you want to be your own boss and you move into consultancy. But it's such a huge responsibility at the same time because you are showcasing the sector and the practice. So, appelle à tous les consultants en salle, assurez-vous que vous avez le bagage. Today, it's constant learning. We need to embrace continuous progressive learning so that at the end of the day, we're bringing pride to the name, consultancy. Yeah. Thank you. Ça, c'est mon petit advocate moment. Yes, we had a question here from a consultant. Lina.
After 14 years plus as an HR, I've moved in the consultancy. So my question would be, if you want to move from the Cold War to the Coldplay scenario, you mentioned about having brutal conversation, could it start by ensuring that as part of the culture, you have a psychological safety?
Who wants to take this? Yes.
Okay. Déjà, pour pratiquer le wilderness, c'est des échanges qui se passent différemment. Il faut que les deux parties soient vraiment trained pour prendre le wilderness. On ne peut pas juste se lancer à faire des wilderness. Parce que dans le passé, ça a été prouvé, disons, je pars, je fais un wilderness, ça fatigue la personne. Parce que la personne n'a pas été trained de prendre des wilderness. Alors aujourd'hui, même avant de pratiquer cette partie de wilderness, c'est de préparer un petit peu la personne même. Parce que souvent, des fois, on se dit, on vient le matin, quelque chose ne s'est pas bien passé la veille, on ne sait pas si la personne qu'on va parler, on va faire wilderness. Est-ce que la personne a un différent mindset quand il est sorti de ça? Je viens, je fais le wilderness et ça vraiment fatigue la personne durant la journée and the productivity is at the lowest level. Alors, avant de pratiquer même le wilderness, il faut déjà préparer la personne. Et aussi, je pense aussi, c'est the culture. Si dans la compagnie, on a l'habitude de faire le wilderness, les personnes vont le prendre quand même assez positif. Mais maintenant, juste disons lundi, vous partez, vous lancez le wilderness, croyez-moi, ça ne va pas marcher. It's all about the culture, the wilderness.
Yeah, let me share a story about this. Good one. So there was this guy who was doing interviews, he's running interviews, and he meets a candidate in the panel, and he says, well, can you tell me what's your main area for improvement or weakness? The typical question. And the guy says, well, I'm brutally honest. And the interviewer responds, well, I don't think that's a weakness. And the candidate responds, I don't care what you think. Just like Bernard is mentioning, the idea is to prepare, but how you prepare it is in the conversation itself, is very often you just ask for permission. Like, can I share a different perspective? Or can I be provocative here on this moment? You know, very rarely people will say no, because they're already given permission. So then you can land what you need to say in a very, let's say, direct way, without having, so you need to prepare the person, and just by, again, leading with questions, can I share a different perspective, can I be provocative, or can I give you an honest feedback, and everyone will say yes. Very rarely. If the person is not ready, you say no. Then you know, when you know you need to probably shut up.
So setting the frame, setting the intention, and saying that it's all in the interest of whatever's at stake. Yeah, there you go. Any question? Charles, you've been a backbencher, Charles. Yeah. You're a regular to HR Café. For change, yes. But please introduce yourself nonetheless.
Hi, my name's Charles. I'm another Pesky consultant. I founded ThriveX Talent Development 3 years ago. And I'm also a HR Café groupie fanboy, tragic, whichever way you want to call it. I want to bring it back to the topic around this sort of HR legitimacy in the boardroom. And at the end of the day, the buck stops with the CEO. And the challenge we're seeing is that the CEO doesn't see the HRD as legitimate. And I think you see lots of examples of the COO becoming the CEO. You see the CFO becoming the CEO, but rarely the HRD. So I'm thinking to the board, to the panel of discussion, what do we need to change about the way that we're developing our HR directors so that they have been exposed to the right experiences and have the right sort of proven results under their belt, so when they enter the boardroom, they're seen as legitimate? Because it seems to me that they're missing that at the moment. And so what is it that we need to change about how we're developing our HR leaders to make sure that they are legitimate when they arrive, and not having to fight it out and try and convince that they deserve a place there in the boardroom?
That's very thought-provoking. Thank you, Charles. And I'm just wondering, we have HRDs who become CEOs eventually. Anyone wants to ask Charles? Come on.
Partager is an example of it. Globally, you have the lady who was the head of HR Unilever and became the CEO of Chanel now. If I'm not mistaken, her name is Nair, right? I don't remember the first name, so because I don't know on first name basis yet. So, a good question. I think before leveraging, leading to the level of at the board level or CEO level, one thing that needs to be sorted out at the HR level itself is professional qualification, professional certification. If you look at all the other les autres métiers, que ce soit la comptabilité, que ce soit l'informatique, que ce soit project management, they have professional qualifications. There's nothing for HR operations. You go to university and that's it. You learn the academic part of it, and if you're lucky, you end up in an organization where you have a good mentor, a good coach, where then you can learn the ropes. Just like David was sharing, you learn HR by experience. Me too, I learned HR by experience. Actually, I wasn't meant to be in HR. I was meant to be a doctor, an engineer, and then I ended up in HR. So that's missing. That's the first thing, because having a professional qualification gives you a broader view, and it legitimizes your let's say your credibility as a professional, and it also gives you the angle of the business. So be it like the likes of SHRM, CIPD. And then there's also the dimension of what I've noticed very often is HR people tend to look after the development of others, but then the quarterly marshal say they don't look after themselves, don't invest in themselves. Because then once you reach that level and you're delivering in that sense, what's next for you? Are you investing in yourself, doing probably an MBA or another kind of professional course which allows you to step up and move to a different role? So that's one angle that I would invite HR people. And the other angle is, I think we mentioned it before, is if you can share that, you can see the business from a broader angle of learning the ropes of the business, understanding the dynamics, the objectives, the challenges, and how you can provide solutions to that, then you'll be a good candidate for business.
Thank you. Yes?
One of the trends which I've noted lately in organizations, big, I would say global organizations like Airtel, CFOs have left their jobs to become CHROs. And it's usually the trend is that the CFO becomes a CEO pretty soon. This is more the kind of trend. But now we're seeing also a new trend. It's only at the outset. It's not, I would say, a world trend. But I know of 2 CFOs who've left their job to step into the role. And one of them has driven the value of this organization, making it to be an organization which is indexed on the London Stock Exchange. So it's the job of the CHRO with strong financial background who managed to do that.
That's quite impressive, because when you think of people in finance, they're all about numbers and cost savings. And for them to move into an HR role, I mean, that's quite impressive. I'd be keen to understand how they did that.
Just one thing I mentioned to Lewis, whose brother Mark, worked together. Mark was the CFO of Rogers at a point in time, then went to business, and I must say he's a very good HR as well.
And there's many CFO contrariés. Because if you look at traditionally in the education of Russia, to have succeeded, you had to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant. Traditionally. And we have one here who was going to be a doctor in HR. So I think that's changing quite quickly now. I think in the younger generations, people that go and study have more choice of what they want to study, and hopefully we'll have people with a real career path rather than maybe forced to be an accountant. That's what they want to be.
Traditions have been, I'm going to become a doctor and engineer, yes. There's a lot of professions emerging from the HR profession at the same time. You mentioned about educating ourselves, Manish, just before we go on to the next question. Shout out to the university people in the room. I know we've got Middlesex University here. We've Dominique Orlanda, Tasmin Jomani from Maurice Education, and maybe some other L&D coordinators and managers. I think our education, tertiary education, also needs to be revamped when it comes to HR courses, be it degree level or short courses. There's not enough. I mean, us who do interviews, when you interview for even an HR officer and you ask about the basics of HR, it's not there. So we need to cultivate right from the educational system to sort of nurture that right there and make sure that our HR people are actually very equipped. And yes, we talk about CPD, but it starts home, it starts with the HR. Yeah, there you go. I hope the message is good. Yes, we've got somebody at the back. I think we'll have time for 2 more questions and then we will wrap up.
Good morning, everyone. Manisha. I think you need to switch on the media.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Manisha. It's just a statement to bounce back on your movement. Actually, we have a very good HR who would to see you. If I can take her name, is Eva.
Yes.
So she's quite well known, and it's inspiring lady. I've not worked with her, but to see how as an HR person you evolved to be a CEO, and now she's going to join quite a famous group of Mauritius. That's quite inspiration for all HR. And I've got the opportunity to work with board in my previous job, and understanding the business language is really key.
how you really have a seat at the table. And then when you're asked questions about what's happening on the marketplace, you're well versed with the business language and you're not speaking as an HR person, but as a business person.
Thank you. Thank you for this observation. Just for information, we did reach out to Heba to join the panel. Unfortunately, she's traveling, but we will catch her one of these days. Definitely for HR Café. And yes, a truly inspiring lady. Thank you. Anyone else for questions? Yes, we do have a backbench. That's Nico.
Yes, hello, good morning ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nico, I'm originally from Germany, 3 years in Mauritius. I'm the CEO and founder of Marketing Lines Consultants Limited and Chance. I have one very difficult question to answer for the gentleman for ER. We didn't tackle the biggest problem so far, the cross-border recruitment and cross-border payment solutions. So it's unbelievably difficult to find good operational workers as well. Not highly skilled workers, operational workers. There's no existing platform right now. We talk about LinkedIn, we talk about StepStone, indeed no one uses it, especially in Madagascar, etc. So how you want to salute that in the future? The only cross-border payment solution right now is peer-to-peer stablecoin backed by USDD, so backed by Tether. There's no existing solution so far. So what is your approach for the future?
Not sure about the question. You're talking about cross-border payment?
Cross-border recruitment?
Oh, recruitment.
Cross-border payment solutions.
Payroll solutions.
And payment solutions.
And payment solutions. So, again, I think there's no one-size-fits-all solution to that. So, if you look at cross-border recruitment, at the moment we are focusing our energy on 2 main countries in terms of foreign labor that we are bringing in is from India and from Madagascar, and in terms of linkage with the type of operations that we have. So the point there is working with companies there or providers, sourcing partnerships in those countries in order to make sure that we have a stable relationship and a pipeline. The challenge that we found in some countries, especially for example in Madagascar and also in India, is that we don't know when we first interact with the partner there whether they are reliable and reputable and they are credible. So there's a kind of a process that we need to do in terms of due diligence to make sure that there's no trafficking being involved. What I mean by that is to ensure that the partner that you're working with, they're not taking money from people. And that's one issue that has been raised in the Institut du Travail, that when you work with labor contractors abroad, they tend to, well, what they don't show you is they're taking money from the employees there, the people there who are planning. And these people, they put debt on themselves, they put their family on mortgage in a way, and come here to work. So they're already indebted, and what happens then is either they end up doing other work in the weekend just to make sure they get enough money to pay that debt. So at the onset, as an organization, we had that issue recently, and we had to cancel everything and restart with another operator who, based on our due diligence, were able to source properly. So when it comes to payroll solutions, again, the idea is we don't have a cross-border payroll solutions yet. We have one for Mauritius. We've been working with different providers in different countries, and this is something which is an opportunity for the region. For those who have multiple operations in the region, from a regional perspective, having cross-border payroll solutions and a proper HR solution across the region would help, but it kind of costs as well. So the key is it's a kind of, at the end of the day, it's a cost benefit to be done, whether it makes sense to have one which is cross-border, or you can do with, depending on how many people you have, you operate in those countries, whether it makes sense to keep working with a local solution and just to report on the main dimensions. That's what I can answer.
So I think we should help.
He thinks you should talk afterwards.
We won't get into the Coldplay part with you, don't worry. Okay, right. Do we have a last question, or are we good to wrap up? Let's just see if we've got somebody else, and then if not, we'll give you the floor. The side has been very silent. Any questions from the backbenchers? Yes, or observation? We have a gentleman at the back. Mr. Ramsay? Yes? Please introduce yourself.
I'm Kiran Ramsay, a non-HR professional. Thank you, Adina, for this amazing HR that I do. I would just like to go back to what was said about Africa. We tend to forget that Africa is the birth of humanity, and Africa is the future of humanity. But unfortunately, both in Mauritius, we are loaded with prejudices. Whenever we mention Africa, it's everything that is negative. We need to open up to the world. We are a very insular island. We tend to develop also with mental insularity. We need to go beyond that and look towards Africa. We are part of Africa. This is a fact that we tend to forget. When we achieved independence, we linked ourselves with Africa, with the dead will come. We are part of Africa, we are part of ACP and EU. We shouldn't lose sight of this fact. So as entrepreneurs, as business people, we are bound to look up to the future, which is Africa. Thank you again.
Thank you for this powerful reminder. We are indeed Africans. My husband doesn't like it when I say that, but I still maintain that we are very much Africans first. Okay, so I think we've reached the end. No, there was, okay, did you have a quick question?
Yeah,
okay, come on. Last one for you.
Last one. So how are you preparing your employees for what's coming next in the AI era and everything? For having been in the industry for 20 years, I know that digital transformation has failed most of the time. But how are you preparing yourself and your employees so that we don't repeat the same mistakes again in terms of ethics, in terms of security, in terms of adoption, preparation, everything?
Matthew will start off.
Well, the AI is going so quickly. We're still very much at the beginning of the journey. So yes, I mean, obviously, I think we're talking about SMEs and stuff like that today. There's a lot of tools out there that, I mean, we use a cloud-based HR system that is actually very good with it. If you lots of AI insights and not having to treat the data. I think what we're seeing as well to help the business to start off with, to make sure that all our people are very much into it's two different things, data and AI, but actually AI can treat data and give you a lot more insights a lot quicker, and basically encourage our people to do that because it's efficiency. And then there's the whole organization side as well, where we're looking at repetitive tasks. How can you, especially when it comes to accounts and other departments as well, when it's so automate that and to make sure that the human actually brings in the difference. Because if tomorrow we're going towards pure AI, I mean, mistakes will be made. So the human has even more of an important role, and to value that role as well. Because when it's going so fast, that I'm not an AI expert.
Thank you. Manish?
On that work, to eat the elephant, we need to break it down, right, and like chunks. So what we're doing is, first is accompanying the teams who need to be à la page because it's evolving so fast. Today we don't know what we don't know about AI and technology. And so having a core team of people who are following the trends, and then who can then train others. That's the first thing. And secondly, identifying those where their jobs will be impacted or being impacted is to train them so that they can use AI, encouraging the utilization of AI tools in the organization. So that's the second thing. And providing accompaniment and training on that. So one of the things that we've done is signed up with enterprise accounts for AI tools, be it Gemini, be it ChatGPT or Copilot, and regularly doing sessions with the teams in place. Especially, we can't train everyone on it, but the idea is encouraging them to work with it. And the third thing is, in a very simple, informal manner, for those who are parents and their kids are using AI, is learning from your kids. You know, so I just updated my iOS to iOS 26 because my 9-year-old son told me, you know, it's a good one. I'll show you how to use it. So last time I updated it. When I go home, I'm going to wait for it to explain what are the new features that I can use. You know, so. But it's kind of a work in progress, and the best way I can say it is because we don't know what the future lies. There's a metaphor we call it is that you can only build the plane while you're flying it. This one.
Là, si je peux juste rajouter quelque chose pour la fin, il faut juste montrer les avantages de l'IA. Croyez-moi, ça va pas être.
I see that you have already started, so congratulations for
Parce
the
que
journey.
oui, on s'en sert au bureau, je peux même dire, on est en train de faire un concours, qu'est-ce qu'on va s'en servir, qui s'en sert plus que ChatGPT 5. Alors croyez-moi, donnez l'avantage de ChatGPT 5, tout le monde va s'en servir.
Et juste pour rajouter que c'est vrai que quand il y a des avancements technologiques, donc ça fait toujours peur. Avec la calculatrice, on en est peur qu'on devient juste des cons. Avec l'ordinateur, on a dit que les gens allaient perdre leur boulot, ben, c'est pareil pour AI. Et donc on se dit, ben, comment est-ce que ça va évoluer? It's not necessarily that people will get out of their jobs, there's going to be a disruption in the workplace. It's how do we embrace it to enhance productivity, talking CEO slang, but also to make the life of people easier, and HR as well. There you go. Okay, so I think we've reached the end of the panel discussion. Il est déjà 12h05. Comme la tradition le veut, j'aimerais inviter notre CEO du groupe, M. Dioman-Mosafeer, qui s'avère être my life partner as well, to please say a few words to conclude this session in your own sort of legendary way, sir.
Right. The last question, and Kiran, you're very close to me while talking about Africa. For what it's worth, I just quote De Gaulle, who said, "L'Afrique a un bel avenir et cela restera éternellement ainsi." So when this future will come to reality is a big question. Thank you all panelists for those valuable gold-like information we've got from you today, and thank you for the smiles you gave me, David. But I think many of you here are from the SME background, and Matthew, you from a multinational, Manish, so are you, Louis is there. These guys have got shock absorbers. One ride goes down, they've got the other one to pick up. SMEs don't have that. So we don't have that luxury of taking probably the HR on a critical side of the business. HR, when you talk about assets, they are probably the only assets which are not on our balance sheet. They are the only productive sides of the business which do not have an intrinsic value on the balance sheet. Where they are just on the P&L. They are just a cost. An asset, even if it goes up to scrap value on an accounting side, is zero. When you sell it, you get something out of it. HR is probably the only asset which you pay to get disposed of. So guys, I think for the value that it is, if you look at business, when we start a business, the first question we ask, whether we've got something to sell to the market, whether it's in demand. The second question we ask is how much investment and the return on investment. And HR comes third or fourth down the line in our business equation. So your challenge to HR guys is really to give the CEO the value of that asset we hold and try to put that in our balance sheet. Things will be easier.
Thank you.
Whatever I've said here, just a disclaimer, whatever I've said here remains here, cannot be taken home. In my business, I'm the CEO, I pretend to be, she's the HR, but it's reverse at home. Thank you for your attendance again. I haven't addressed any of your points that you've raised because I think I've learned more before coming in. And there's nothing to debate about what you say, Matthew, David, Laura, and Manish. Thank you very much. Thank you to the audience. I'll see you next time.